Chapter 19. Santiago. When it was time for lunch, Santiago took his usual seat at the table with Walter and a couple of their friends from soccer and the debate club. They were still raving about last Friday's soccer game. Santiago couldn't believe it had only been a couple days since then. It felt like ages ago. He listened to their conversation in comfortable silence, eating his sandwich and sipping on his Jumex, when something suddenly caught his eye. "Santiago, isn't that your cousin talking to Emiliano Garcia?" Walter asked. Santiago looked up to see a girl with long black hair and big rimmed glasses chatting with a tall boy who had brown skin and jet black curly hair. He couldn't help but notice how much taller Emiliano was than Anya. A small tickle of annoyance crept along Santiago's skin. Emiliano Garcia is Sophia's brother, and he's like the most popular guy in 10th grade. All the girls go crazy over him, one of his friends from the debate club chimed in. Santiago watched as Emiliano stood a little too close to Anya, the laughter between them sending a jolt of displeasure through him. Another laugh, and then another. What exactly was so damn funny? He wondered, feeling his irritation morph into a larger flame, igniting a sudden rage he had never experienced before. He had never seen Anya interact with boys other than himself, and questions fired in his mind. What was she doing with him? Why was she even talking to him? Wasn't she supposed to be looking after him, protecting him? After all, she was the Del Toro bodyguard, which meant she should be by his side at all times, and yet she was over there giggling like a maniac. How annoying, he thought, seating in his chair. "Oh, look, she's pointing this way," Walter said excitedly. A bit of Santiago's Jumex spurted out from his straw. He had been clenching at the straw without realizing. He watched as Anya pointed at their table and then gave a small wave, and Walter waved back excitedly. Santiago's eyes darted from Anya to Emiliano Garcia, who was squinting in the direction of their table. Emiliano shook his head at Anya, then pointed to another table with a couple of older students. Anya shook her head. They talked a bit more. She waved goodbye and began walking toward them. "Oh my God, she's coming!" Walter exclaimed, sounding like a fanboy. "Walter, please," Santiago said, annoyed, though he could also feel his heart suddenly start racing. "Who is that?" one of his soccer teammates asked. The question was answered when Anya suddenly stood in front of them. "Hi, everyone. I'm Anita Martinez, Santiago's cousin from his mom's side. It's my first day here at El Instituto. Is it all right if I join you?" Her smile was blinding, revealing all of her perfectly straight teeth. Immediately, Walter scooted over, almost snarking Mark down at the end of the table. Anya sat down right across Santiago. He met her emerald eyes behind her huge glasses, but couldn't hold her gaze. He quickly looked away, and suddenly felt like he couldn't finish his sandwich. The rest of lunch passed without a hitch. He didn't have to worry about making conversation because everyone was obsessed with Anya's presence, bombarding her with a storm of questions that she politely responded to, like as if she were in some kind of job interview. "Did Emiliano Garcia ask you out?" At this, Santiago's ears perked up as he looked at Anya, searching for clues in her expression. Instead, she just squinted. It was only for a second, but Santiago noticed, and he knew what that meant. Anya always squinted when she didn't understand what she was being asked. Growing up in Romania and being homeschooled had left her somewhat disconnected from mainstream conversation. "He means if he asked you to be his girlfriend," Santiago clarified, trying to act as though he could care less about the answer. "Oh," Anya said, looking up at the ceiling ever so slightly, which meant she was contemplating the question. Santiago cursed at how well he knew her mannerisms. "No, he was just inviting me to sit with him." "Why didn't you?" Walter asked. "He's like the coolest guy in 10th grade. Anya smiled at the question, and Santiago was acutely aware that her gaze was clearly directed at him. Why would I want to sit anywhere else? When the end of the school day finally came, Santiago breathed a sigh of relief. This had been the hardest day he'd experienced since his first day at Instituto St. John Baptiste. He was exhausted from feeling so many things: embarrassment, irritation, happiness, anger. It was like he was on a roller coaster of emotions, with Anya at the wheel. He missed the days when he would come home to find her waiting, ready to listen to talk to him about his day, without any distractions. Being at school with her was overwhelming. not because he was ashamed of her, but because he felt constantly exposed under her attention. Every smile she shot his way felt like an arrow piercing his heart. He liked the attention, but he worried that everyone could see right through him, that his classmates would discover just how much he liked Anya. His feelings for her were private, and he didn't want anyone teasing or pressuring him about anything concerning her. Hiding his feelings for Anya was turning out to be more difficult than Santiago had anticipated. It was clear from her first 3 days at school that she was bound to be popular. Not only had Emiliano Garcia spoken to her, but 2 other 10th graders had also invited her to study with them during their study period. One even chatted with her throughout gym class, and it was driving Santiago crazy. He wasn't sure if it was her association with him that made her popular, or if it was simply the fact that she was new and drop-dead gorgeous. If he was being honest, he guessed it was probably a mix of both, but maybe a little more of the latter. By Thursday, he was struggling to tolerate the situation. He couldn't even eat properly at lunch, nor could he focus during study period because he kept glaring at the boys who had invited Anya to sit with him. She didn't, of course, but Santiago could see their gazes darting toward her, making his skin crawl. During gym, as he was running laps, he noticed Anya talking with other 10th graders on the bleachers. He ended up tripping over his shoelaces and falling flat on the concrete. By the time the school day was over, he was hungry, had to do extra studying at home, and his ankle throbbed from twisting it. He sighed in frustration and prayed that Consuelo had a big plate of enchiladas verdes waiting for him when he got home, a meal he would enjoy undisturbed in his room. La Virgen Maria answered his wish. As soon as Santiago stepped through the door, Anya went to talk to Javier, allowing him to walk into the kitchen where Consuelo had placed a plate of enchiladas verdes topped with queso fresco and onions alongside a side of rice and a pitcher of freshly brewed agua de Jamaica. His mouth began to water. "Mijo, ¿cómo te fue?" Santiago watched as his papa approached the kitchen table. Realizing that his chance at an undisturbed meal was gone, he knew there was no way he could take the plate up to his room now. His papa settled into the seat across from him, beaming with a radiant smile. Before Santiago knew it, he found himself recounting everything that had happened at school that week, the words tumbling out of his mouth in a rush as he shared his excitement, frustration, and the whirlwind of emotions stirred up by Anya's presence.